Well, hello and welcome to episode number 433 of the Plain Talking UK podcast. I am Carlos, and in this week's packed show, an A320 ends up with an extra ventilation hole, Ryanair jazz up some of their fleet of Boeing 737s with some boy racer mods, and one German airline goes all VR with the Airbus A320. And in this week's military news, it's all top secret, and Armando is going to surprise us all with what's been going on in the world of all things grey this week.
Oh, is it, or is it just because you didn't read the show notes? Is it?
Well, yes, he didn't write any.
Oh, okay, all
Honestly.
right. Do love a surprise.
I know, and obviously the voice is there. Joining me this week, he's back this week.
Only for 1 week, though. I'm not here next week.
Oh, he's not here next week. Oh, chaos will resume next week. Matt Smith, how the devil are you?
Oh, I'm all right, mate. Thank you. How are you?
I'm all right. I've got a beer.
Very good. Well, that's always a win. Yeah.
I've also, here it's this side, got me Poppy Spitfire.
Oh, very good. Yes.
My little thing here. Which
Yeah,
is
love
also
that. That's
fine
very cool.
here.
Yeah.
That is very good, yeah. Or supporting the good cause this year, as I do every year. But this was my collection. Because remember, every year they release a different style of...
Oh, do they?
The poppy pin badges. Yeah, I've got loads in the bedroom next door. But this year, extra special ones this year, we've got one with the Spitfire on, which is I've got here.
Nice.
And they've also released one with the Lancaster bomber on as well, which is also, I think they sold out within about
10 seconds.
10 seconds
yeah.
of them going online.
Sounds about right.
So
Yeah.
I've got my Spitfire one, so I'm happy. But yeah, it's all good. Yeah.
Well, it's Armistice Day here in the UK,
Yes,
so it's the
is.
11th of November. So obviously we've been paying our respects at various bits and pieces, and I'm hopefully going to be involved in a parade in Dis over the weekend, all being well. So yeah, all very exciting.
Yes. So you had a busy week.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Well, yeah, just sort of, as I sort of said last time. I think it's the whole. We've sort of started distributing our Christmas cases. So,
oh my God, yeah, it's Christmas time. For
yeah,
you guys,
very much so. So we're very much in what we call peak at the moment, which means I can't have any time off or anything like that until January now. But that's all right. I mustn't grumble. I had loads beforehand, but yeah, so very busy at work at the moment. Sort of keeping track of 140,000 odd cases that will be dispatched from our warehouse in the next week, which is just a ridiculous number. So
send them here.
Yeah, right. Okay, no. People have bought them. That's not the problem. It's
well, what can we say if DPD or Hermes make a mistake?
Right. Okay.
You're making me awful thirsty.
Yes. Well, this week we are missing two of our team members this week.
I know.
The glorious Neville Bounds is unfortunately not with us this week. He's busy travelling. I mean, he could be anywhere really in Europe, let's be fair, filling up his already, bounty of Avios points. So Nev can't be with us this week.
He might be spending some, you never know.
He might be spending some, yeah. But we'll hear more about that hopefully next week when Nev is back. And Armando is not with us this week. He's, Armando's doing what Armando does all the time, which is fly aircraft.
Indeed. Yeah, we do have a little video from him, a little introduction. So,
we have got a little introduction.
So, but perhaps all will be explained, in that.
But we have got a super sub guest joining us this week. He's back. He's not been on for about 100 years, but he's back with us this week. And obviously, it's everyone's favourite blue spanner wielding person who normally gets rid of all the bots in the chat room for us every week.
Oh, yeah.
It's, of course, our main man, Micah.
It's great to be here, and I can't remember the last time when I was here, but it's always a great time to be able to visit with you guys, but it's very, very difficult to do it when I'm trying to substitute for two of the best, Armando and Nev, so I will do my very, very best.
I'm sure you will. Absolutely.
Now, refresh my memory, Micah, because I think I asked you earlier on today through message, but it always baffles me, especially with the time changes that we have here in the UK, with the clocks going up and down and back and forward and all the rest of it. At the moment, you are 4 hours behind us?
5 hours. It's 14:05 here.
Oh, wow.
There we go.
Yeah, 2:00 in the afternoon. It's a beautiful day. Right now, 66 degrees Fahrenheit, 19 degrees Celsius, and we're just waiting for I think, well, it was Hurricane Nicole, then it became Tropical Storm Nicole, and it's going to be Subtropical Depression Nicole should be here in a little bit. I'm feeling a bit subtropically depressed. It's just awful.
Yeah. Tony S is saying in the chat room actually that a blue spanner is so much more useful than a blue check. Oh my goodness me, hasn't that opened up a can of worms this week? If you don't know what I'm on about, check Twitter. It's all over there.
And a lovely message as well from Mazoos.
Look, you see the main man, the main man, mega sub Micah. That rolls off the tongue nicely, doesn't it?
Yeah. But no, it's lovely to have you back with us, Micah. What's been going on in the world of Micah? Have you been traveling anywhere exciting?
Haven't really traveled very much, but it was a wonderful summer. I can't believe it seems like summer was the day before yesterday, and now here it is already Armistice Day or Veterans Day, as they call it here in the U.S. And in fact, with that lovely summer, the photo behind me is of a Stearman aircraft taking off from the Spurwink Farm pancake breakfast and fly-in. That was just wonderful. Great time. And recently I've been working with our good friend Pasadena Brian Coleman, and he's been working on his own podcast called The Journey is Reward, trying to get lifetime 1K status with United. And we have a show coming out, maybe twice a month, maybe 3 times a month, depends on when we get to it. And he just returned from Singapore. He's doing the biggest mileage run you can imagine. He's trying to get about 200, and I think he needs 273,000 more miles to make it. And he has most of them booked already.
Blimey. He could never run for his money at this rate.
No, quite. Indeed.
But no, it's good to have you on, as always, Micah. And I expect you've got plenty of comments to make on the stories we've got on tonight's show, because we've got some quite interesting stories in the commercial news this week. But Matt, you've got a video for us from Armando, haven't you?
Yes, he sends his apologies, and I assume the apology will be in this video.
Check out the green screen.
Hey everybody, unfortunately can't be on the show today. I've actually been flying all week long. This week I have flown the Piper Super Cruiser. Then I jumped into the skydive plane at some point, pun intended. I flew 2 different Pilatuses, and yesterday I flew the Hawker 800, and then today I'm back into the Pilatus doing a 6-leg trip for a client, private owner. So it's been a busy week flying around the East Coast this whole week, anywhere from 40 knots to 400 knots. So I've decided to take a day off. I'm camping up in Tennessee with the family. Again, we've taken the long weekend. It is Veterans Day weekend here in the U.S. And that being said, I hope all of our friends and families that served in the military, had connections to the military, go out, get yourself some hard-earned free food, because there's lots of discounts out there on Veterans Day. But most importantly, thank you for your service to everyone in our listenership that has served in the military and been part of the military growing up or with families and friends. And that is for all the militaries around the world, not just the U.S. military. I really appreciate everybody that has served in our partner forces. It's not an easy life. So that being said, I will not be on the show today, but we've got some military stories in there for you guys at the end of the show, and great interview with Stuart Airey, part 2. Stuart talks to us a little bit about some of the risks associated with flying the Pilatus and the RFDS of Australia, the Royal Flying Doctor Service. So enjoy that interview, and I will see everybody the following week. Take care.
Fantastic. Well, as I say, I mean, you were saying there, Carlos, about green screen. I mean, for goodness sake.
Me and Matt struggled to have like a green screen like we've got behind with a picture. Yeah. You know, Matt normally has a great picture on the screen behind him, but I mean, Armando has blown us out of the water there with that green screen. I mean, that is
well, you know what? As I said earlier, while it's Armistice Day across the pond with you guys, it's Veterans Day here in the USA, and obviously Armando is one of PTUK's favorite veterans. He deserves a day off, so I'm glad he's up there camping.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Yeah, it's something we do very well here in the UK, I think, isn't it? Remembering, I think that's something that...
that's one thing we do.
Yeah, there's a few things in this country that we can be proud of these days, but that's definitely one of them.
I think if for us American listeners, and for you, Mike, if you go around the UK at this particular time of the year, you'll obviously see a lot of the villages, many of the small villages, even some of the small villages which have only got like a few shops in, they all have their memorial statues and stuff, which have always got the poppy wreaths on and all the poppies on, all dressed up really, really nicely for the day.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah, I was just having a conversation with a friend of mine over the weekend that, used to be able to buy poppies and support different veterans associations here in the U.S. all the time. And I would always do that. But neither one of us have seen poppies sold any place for years now. And I'm very sad about that.
Oh, that is a shame. That is a shame. Yeah. It's the Royal British Legion, isn't it, that sort of deals with it here, and they're sort of everywhere really this time of year. It's, as I say, it's great. They're in like the supermarkets and everything, sort of flogging the poppies and behind the bar and all sorts. It's good. It's good. And they raise a lot of money for a very good cause.
They do. They do indeed.
Right.
And, right, so it's time. We missed it last week because we were so flustered with everything working so well that we missed it last week.
I didn't have to do any editing. I was quite impressed.
Oh, blimey! You haven't seen the original or the full version then?
Oh, right. Okay, fair enough.
Anyway, it's a time of the month where we say a big thank you to all our Patreon donators of the show then. So we're going to have a little look here at this amazing bunch of people, and we'll start with Sam Dawson, Logan Lynch, Alex Robinson, Dirk S, Sasha Beer, Stephen Ivy, Nicholas Codling, Louis Carres, pronounced that wrong. We have Armando to do that every week. Alan White, Stephen Howland, Tanya Wyman, Nicholas Hewitt, Masha Gertz, Ruben Wells, Neil Lanwarn, Graham Haley, Jonathan Warner, Eric Graves, Jordan Rose, Andrew Wilson, Captain Jeff, Adam Spink, Liz Piper, Jeff Ward, Jenny Parkinson, Evan Shue, Shortbacker, Ray Williams, and Stephanie Plummer. And our PayPal donators who donate through the PayPal means this month are Craig Urosco, Richard Adams, Tony Stubbings, and Mazus Karim. And we want to welcome into our Patreon family this month. Our new donators are Masha and Sam. So welcome to the Patreon family, and a big thanks to everyone who supports the show each month, because it honestly, genuinely does make a hell of a difference to what we can do on the show, especially when it comes to the great interviews that Nev has been doing with Captain Nick, which obviously take up a lot of time and a few of our funds, as to say, for the show.
Worth it, though. Absolutely.
And also, don't forget as well, where Matt is in the PTUK Master Suite studios, where he's got 400 TV monitors, 6,000 desktop computers, it all helps to pay to run all those, because as you all know, electric here in the UK...
It's quite the expensive commodity these days.
It is, yes. Electric is like gold now. It's like a gold dust.
But fortunately, all that equipment helps heat his home now.
Oh yeah, no, I don't spend a penny on gas. Yeah.
So a big thanks to all our Patreon and PayPal donators of the show. Thanks to you, one and all, and we really do appreciate you all.
Very much so.
So it's time to move on then. We'll have a look in the quick chat room to see who's in there this week with us. We're starting off with Lee Davies was in there about 3 hours ago waiting for us to start the show. Hello to you, Lee. Along with Richard Adams as well, another one of our early birds in the chat room. We've got Paul Tricker. Hello to you, Paul. Good to see you.
Paul, I haven't seen Paul for ages. And Alex Robinson as well. Yeah.
Mazus Karim. Hello to you, Mazus. Alex Robinson. Hobby Time. Dirk S as well. Puebla Champ. Nice to see a new face, a new name in the chat room. So hello to you, Puebla. Nice to see you in there. He's in Mexico. My word.
Mexico.
Tony S, hello to you. Bill, hello to you as well. Microman, who is actually Neil Lamworn in disguise.
Are you allowed to say that?
Well, we are, yes. Who else we got? I've missed anyone out.
All the
Just
bosses
scroll
in,
down.
I see.
Oh, Jenny Parkinson, hello to you, Jenny, and Masha as well. Lovely to see you in there, Masha. Katie Brame's in there, Matt. Do we know a Katie?
Yeah. She's the boss. Yeah.
Oh, she's the boss. Okay.
Yeah.
I better not say anything nasty
No.
then. And
Indeed. Quite right.
Alex Robinson and Arnie Carlson, hello to you. And hello to everyone who's joined us this evening for the show. So, as I said, we've got tons to get through this week, including at the end of tonight's show, we're going to be announcing the winner of the signed book from the competition that Nev set last week. We're going to run a regular book competition on the show because we have got rather a lot of aviation books to give away on the show. So we're going to be probably doing another book competition on next week's show. So make sure you keep your eyes peeled for that. So if all the team's ready, including our super sub Micah, shall we start the commercial news?
I think we should.
I'm mainly ready.
Let's go.
See what you did there.
Captain has turned on the seatbelt light. Please take your seats and fasten your seatbelts.
So this week's first story comes to us from 1 Mile at a Time, Khaleesi Times, and Reuters.com. And it's one of those things I think that you don't want to be hearing, especially if you're on board an aircraft ready to leave the departure area. And that is all about US-bound Emirates 777s that are diverted over security threats this week. So 2 Emirates flights experienced significant operational delays to their departures from Athens on Thursday this week due to alleged security threats. EK209, operating from Athens to Newark, departed as planned and for the first 90 minutes operated to standard routing. While flying over Sardinia, the plane entered an extended holding pattern. Eventually, the 777 started to fly back towards Athens. However, it didn't take the same routing back. Instead, the plane flew exclusively over water rather than land, which caused a significant detour. Furthermore, the plane landed back in Athens roughly 4 hours and 20 minutes after takeoff and was escorted by fighter jets. According to the Greek media, the Central Intelligence Agency, or the CIA, as we refer to it here in the UK and in the US, had a reason to believe that there was a passenger on board who posed a threat to the plane. Italy and France both allegedly refused to allow the plane to land in their respective countries. The fact that the plane had to fly over open water paints a pretty grim picture of what may have been suspected here. Typically, in the event of a diversion, it's not normal for the plane to avoid land the entire way to the destination airport. And according to passengers, when the plane landed back in Athens, who had originated in Athens, were allowed to disembark first, while those who had connected from Dubai had to stay on board the aircraft. EK210, which landed from Newark and was departing Athens bound for Dubai, was also called to return to the stand prior to their takeoff from Venizelos Airport. A thorough security inspection of the aircraft and passengers was conducted. The aircraft departed 4 hours delayed. Reuters reports that Greek police said the aircraft were ordered back to Athens as part of an information inquiries from the US, but following checks of the passengers and the aircraft, they did not find the person the information was about or anything else suspicious. Passengers on flight EK209 were rebooked to travel on November the 11th and provided overnight accommodation, and Emirates apologised for any inconvenience caused, the airline spokesman said.
I mean, with anything like this, I mean, it has to be 100% taken seriously, doesn't it? Because you just don't know, do you? This is the thing. So you don't want to be the airline that's sort of saying, "Oh no, it's a load of nonsense," and then get it wrong. Because
yeah, you have to take those things seriously. And the fact that they diverted it over water the whole time with fighter jets, armed fighter jets, I'm sure, following it, so that if anything happened on board and they tried to crash it, it wouldn't crash over land. And if the fighter jets had to take it down, it was going to go into the water and not affect anyone else. That's pretty frightening when you think about it.
Very serious, yeah. So so that, I mean,
these are 777s as well. Don't forget, these aren't. This is
these aren't baby planes.
300 plus passengers.
Yeah, indeed, big numbers. It's now there are some notes which I won't read out in there, but I think it worth saying what he was saying. Essentially, the gist of it in the articles was that there's an awful lot of hearsay in this particular thing, and there are some things that don't sort of quite add up. As far as he's concerned, I mean, you guys, you know the industry better than we do. There are sort of some, maybe some creative reporting. Perhaps is probably the best way to describe it.
Wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
Well, and the other thing is that anything that came out of the CIA or if it came from MI5, we're not going to get the whole story. And they said they didn't get anyone. Who knows whether they got someone or not, but we're not going to get the whole story, and we shouldn't get the whole story. These things are supposed to be
kept quiet
from the public.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I agree.
Yeah. Next time, I won't go on the aircraft and demand to be let into the flight deck to have a look.
It's you again, innit? Yeah. What are you like? All right, we'll move on to the next story then.
No, I like this one. I found this one this week, and this is good news because it made me smile.
Right, okay, I'm not quite sure why. Anyway, it's on the Telegraph, where this story came from. Telegraph.co.uk is the website. And Loganair, Britain's biggest regional airline, has been handed lucrative takeoff and landing slots at Heathrow following sanctions against Russia's flag carrier Aeroflot. What's that saying? I've got this mental image of Matt and Carlos having to climb over a mountain of aviation-themed books to get to their microphones. That is indeed very true, which is why we're going to give them all away, Alex, so that you have to climb over them to get to your microphone. But anyway, the allocation made by a central coordinator will come as a boon to millionaire Bond brothers that own Loganair, who have recently put the airline up for sale. Slots at Heathrow are highly sought after. Once allocated, airlines can choose to sell or lease them to a third party. The highest price paid for a single pair of slots at the airport was something in the region of $75 million. That's £66 million when Oman Air acquired rights to a morning arrival in February 2016 from Air France KLM. Aeroflot held 70 weekly slot pairs at Heathrow prior to Vladimir Putin's invasion of Ukraine in February. The state-owned airline was stripped of them as part of sanctions against Russia. Aeroflot is banned from landing at UK airports. Virgin Atlantic was among the other beneficiaries of Aeroflot's slots being reallocated, the Evening Standard reported on Monday. The transatlantic airline brought forward plans to fly to Tampa, launching its inaugural service to Florida City last week. Canada's WestJet, China Airlines, Colombian carrier Avancia, and India's Vistara also shared in what's being described as a slots windfall to airlines at the airport.
This is fantastic news, I think, personally.
It's great.
More to the point for Loganair, because it's about time Loganair had a bit more good news. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I don't know how much more good news they could get. Really, I mean, it's like they paid off their coat. It's still, I know, but that's because they want to retire. They're not trying to sell it because there's anything wrong with the airline. In fact, it's exactly the opposite of that. As I think we said not last week, but the week before. Of course, they paid back so the government were offering COVID loans and all that kind of thing, and they paid it off. Not only have they paid it off, but they paid it off 2 years early. So I mean, this is not an airline that is in financial trouble in any way, shape, or form. They're literally selling it as the ultimate going concern. And if you throw into the mix the gold dust that is a Heathrow slot or two, a couple of slots there. I mean, surely somebody's going to be getting the checkbook out now, if only to bag themselves the slot.
It'd be interesting to see, actually. I haven't had a chance to look yet to see what destinations Loganair are going to, if they're going to offer more destinations from Heathrow. I
mean, I presume they would have had to have put a plan in order to be able to apply for the slots. So there must be some plan in the mix, I guess.
But I'm not familiar with I'm not familiar with Logan Air. What kind of aircraft do they fly, and where do they fly around the UK? I've never heard of them before, other than on the show on occasion.
So it's a little regional airline, basically. They mostly do internal hops, don't they? So they do a lot of sort of flying to some of the islands. It's a Scottish-based airline, and they do some routes abroad, don't they? But
So they've currently, Micah, they're currently using the Saab 340s as their staple of their fleet, but they're now in the process of binning off the 340s, the Saabs, the 340Bs, and they are gradually getting all new ATRs, the ATR 72s.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
No, I'm really glad that those slots got filled up again, because, we need to keep our friend Adam very busy.
absolutely. I mean, we'd hate for him to be able to have time to have a coffee or anything like that. I mean, that'd be outrageous, wouldn't it?
The amusing thing is, and Matt knows this as well as I do, because you've been up the towers.
Yes.
But when you're standing up the top of that tower at Heathrow, looking down at the aircraft taxiing around below, I mean, the A380 looks big, looks
Yeah. Anyway,
but when you look at the A318s and the A319s, A320s, they look tiny little things. Imagine how big the ATR 72s look, because they're even smaller. I mean, it's going to be like looking at little tiny, chess pieces.
So these are little turboprops, aren't they? These yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, it must be quite a challenge. Again, all jokes aside, it must be quite the challenge for the air traffic controllers to get the separation, in place, because they aren't going to be very fast, are they?
Exactly, Matt. Is what I'm about to say. You've got to remember that nearly, I'd imagine, at least 95% of what flies out of Heathrow is powered by jet engines. These are obviously propeller powered aircraft. So
and they're going to have to keep the separation up too from the turbulence coming from the larger planes if they're following behind.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm going to say a quick hello to Ray Davis before he disappears. Hello to Ray Davis. It's obviously, it must be about I don't know, 2 or 3 in the morning or something where Ray is. He's off to take an hour's drive to head down to the air show.
Oh,
photos and video, hopefully. He posted. He's going to send us some pictures and photos.
Oh, do please, yes. Do.
Well done, Ray.
Yeah, love it.
Those.
Yeah, definitely need to see those. Yeah.
It's 6:30 in the morning where he is.
Well, that's not. No, that's 6:30 is fine. I've been up since 10 to 5. That's fine.
Same here.
Yeah, well, yes, quite, absolutely. Yeah, that's just a standard day. Anyway.
So, Micah, you've got the next story, and this is a little bit, when I found this one, I thought,
Yeah, this is a little scary. Middle East Airlines A320 was hit by a bullet in Beirut. Now, this incident happened yesterday. That was November 10th. And Middle East Airlines MEA flight ME311 from Amman to Beirut. The flight was operated by a roughly 11-year-old Airbus with a registration code of ODMRM. And the plane was finishing up a 147-mile, 40-minute flight. It was on final approach to Beirut at, I guess that's Beirut Rafik, and it's the Hariri International Airport. And out of nowhere, the plane was hit by a bullet, which pierced the top of the right forward part of the fuselage. Now, fortunately, there were no injuries, though a Lebanese lawmaker was seated in seat 2F, and reports was that the bullet entered the fuselage above her head. But I can't imagine anybody would have known that. I can't imagine that was intentional. Now, while a full investigation hasn't been performed, it's more likely that this wasn't intentional, just as I had said. On average, 7 to 8 parked planes are hit by stray bullets each year in Beirut Airport, which is another reason why I'm not sure I want to visit Beirut. That's because
anyway.
It's because of celebratory gunfire is a common occurrence in Lebanon, as guns are often fired to mark speeches by politicians, to release official exam results, and more. And earlier this year, Aegean Airlines suspended flights to Beirut after one of its planes also got struck by a bullet while parked at the airport overnight. It's just amazing. But you know what I thought of right away, and I'm saying this for Jonathan Warner if he's listening, because I bet you he had the same thought, is that if Middle East Airlines abbreviation is ME and it was flight ME311, I wonder if they have a flight ME109, which would be a Messerschmitt.
I like what you did there, Micah. Very good.
Totally lost on me.
It's an old World War II fighter plane, Matt.
Oh yeah. No, it was the reference. It was I knew what the aircraft was. I'm not that bad. It was more the reference of the numbers, but that's.
I mean, we've covered. I think we've covered maybe one or two-ish stories like this in the past. I think by memory, but you know, the fact the hole is from the top of the aircraft rather than being from the side or from below. You know, it does suggest that possibly it was something that was fired directly up in the air. Then obviously, as it has come back down again as a projectile, it's obviously pierced the skin of the aircraft. But still, it's not something you really want to have when you're pressurized at sort of above sort of 15,000 feet. Really.
I mean, presumably a small hole like that is, the aircraft pressurization system can handle that.
I don't know. It doesn't say. The report doesn't say. I think I read because Simon Heracli had it on the Aviation Herald website. I think it was on there.
But it says it was on final approach, so the odds are it was at an altitude where pressurization didn't even really matter.
Right, yes, I see. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
But, they say we have a gun problem here in the USA. It sounds like Lebanon probably has a slightly larger one than we do.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no updates on the Aviation Herald about it either, but to say anything like that. But like I said, it was on approach to land, so that obviously the aircraft would have been, the pressure would be a lot different to what it would be if it was above, sort of 15, 20,000 feet.
Yeah.
And as Richard Adams says in the in the chat room, it is kind of a very common tradition that in the Middle Eastern countries that you fire guns up in the air at weddings and other celebrations. And in fact, this has been an issue in the past in Detroit in the USA because there's a large Middle Eastern population there, and it's just it's sort of like fireworks on the 4th of July. That's sort of part of the celebration that takes place.
Yeah.
So moving on to the next story. This was quite a big story in the news this week as well, with some quite disturbing pictures, actually, of the aircraft itself. This is from AV Herald, Reuters.com and SimpleFlying.com. And this is the Precision Air Service ATR 42. We've just been talking about ATRs, haven't we? The ATR 42-500 registration 5 Hotel Papa Whiskey Foxtrot, performing flight PW494 from Dar es Salaam to Bukoba in Tanzania with 39 passengers and 4 crew, was on approach to Bukoba's runway 13 at around 8:53 Lima time. The aircraft overshot Bukoba's runway 13 and came to a stop submerged in Lake Victoria around 100 meters or 330 feet past the end of the runway, with the aircraft approximately 80% submerged in the lake, nose down. 24 survivors and 19 fatalities, unfortunately, amongst them the captain and first officer of the flight, were confirmed. The 2 pilots survived the crash and were in touch with rescue workers from the cockpit before reporting that their oxygen supply was dwindling. Albert Chamila, chief administrator of Tanzania's Karaga region, told Reuters. They were dead when rescue workers reached them, but the 2 flight attendants survived, he said. Survivors reported the aircraft had been approaching Bukoba in heavy rain. The approach was turbulent, and the crew aboard the approach climbed back, then announced they would try another approach, and if that failed, they would need to return to Dar es Salaam. The aircraft was on final approach again when they suddenly found themselves in the water. The cabin filled rapidly with water, and a flight attendant opened the emergency exit in the back, where they were able to get out of the aircraft after some time, when they were picked up by canoes and fishing boats. Emergency workers this week, towards the end of this, I think it was yesterday, have now lifted the aircraft out of the lake using ropes and cranes, with local people offering to help and support as well. So I think this is another one of those weather-related incidents. Again, I think we've had quite a few of this year with overruns. I didn't see what the METARs were for the actual airfield. I think it did say, I'm just looking at action bring up on this for me now. Reduced visibility to 200 meters apparently.
Oh gosh, that's quite low.
On their approach. Winds were at 17 knots with heavy rain, and the clouds were at 1,000 feet broken. So it was not the greatest place to land, really.
You know, I do have a question for you guys. I'm curious how you guys do it. You know, we've had discussions about Qatar and whether it's Qatar, whether it's Qatar, and I wouldn't want to put the accent on the wrong syllable. So I'm wondering if you guys say, is it Tanzania or Tanzania?
Tanzania.
Tanzania is the pronunciation I've heard and are familiar with.
Yeah.
I've heard both, and I usually say Tanzania, but I also say Caribbean as opposed to Caribbean, so right. I don't know.
Fair enough. Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, funny one, really, isn't it? I don't know what the how you should do it, really.
Alex Robinson says 200 meters. Were they doing an auto land?
Oh, really?
I don't know. I'm just quickly reading through the report, which
I don't know if the ATR has auto land.
True.
And there was no, according to Captain Jeff, who's in the chat room, they talked about this prodigiously. They did a great job covering it on the show that was recorded yesterday. There was no ground-based navigation available to them.
Yeah, that's what I've got here in front of me. Yeah, no instrument approaches published for Bacoba, and there's no ground-based navigation aids. But I'll tell you what aircraft does have auto land, Micah. Captain Jeff would know this as well. Which aircraft pioneered auto land?
I don't know. Could it be an L-1011?
Oh, Micah!
For goodness sake,
Micah! He guessed. He's so good, isn't he? He's so good.
What, you mean other than the fact that you're absolutely obsessed with the L-1011 and therefore any excuse to shoehorn it into any kind of reference?
It's another feather in the many feathers in the cap of the L-1011. It was the pioneer of Autoland.
No, I do remember Captain Jeff saying how much he loved to fly it and how it was an aircraft that was way ahead of its time.
Yep, very true. Yeah. So, Micah, you've got the next story, and it's good news.
Yes, it is. There are plans to rebuild the world's largest airplane have been confirmed. And for AvGeeks, the destruction of the world's largest commercial plane was one of the key images at the start of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. And in February, the Antonov AN-225 was attacked at its base in Hostomel in Kiev. Or it's not Kiev anymore, it's Kyiv. The dream will never die, tweeted the manufacturers when it was destroyed. Now it looks like they have stayed true to their word, with the company announcing that plans to rebuild it are underway. Nickname Mriya, I'm guessing. M-R-I-Y-A. I'm going to say Mriya. Ukrainian for dream. The massive plane was built in the 1980s to carry the Soviet space shuttle. Its later life was slightly less glamorous, but it was equally iconic. It was the world's largest cargo transporter with around twice the hold capacity of a Boeing 747. It won cult status among self-styled AvGeeks. It stretched 84 meters or 275 feet with a wingspan of 88.4 meters. On Monday, however, the Antonov company announced in a tweet that the rebuild project had already begun with design work already in the offing. While it has been estimated that the repair cost, the company predicted the bill will be about 500 million euros, or that's $502 million, to get it back in the air, promising more information after the victory. Already, the company has around 30% of the components needed to build a new one, and the process of rebuilding it is considered an international project with the participation of aviation enterprises of different countries around the world. The possibility of attracting funds from various sources is being considered, and proposals from many organizations that are ready to join the project are being reviewed. The company said it would coordinate the research, design, and assembly, and confirmed that there are still main airframe units for a new plane that have not been destroyed. The program is developing in the direction of carrying out an expert assessment of these units for subsequent calculations and design work, the company wrote, adding that the build would take place immediately after the victory of the Ukraine. The announcement coincides with the launch of an exhibition dedicated to the plane at Leipzig-Halle Airport in Germany, which is home of 5 other Antonov aircraft. Light and Shadow, the Antonov story, shows photos of the aircraft before and after its destruction, focusing on the engineering prowess that was lost when it was attacked. It will be on display until the end of December. In the meantime, if you're missing this aircraft, you can build your own, or at least your own model. Ukrainian startup Metal Time is selling working mechanical design kits of an AN-225. Each cost $99, and the profits go straight to Antonov to fund the rebuild, as well as the rehousing of Antonov employees whose homes have been destroyed by the Russian invasion, and training for new Ukrainian pilots and aviation engineers. And that is a good news story.
Love that, I really do.
I've got to say, I know it's a big aircraft. Well, it's the biggest in the world. But that's one hell of a repair or a build to rebuild.
It really is amazing what they use that for. I mean, they carry oil rigs back and forth to Abu Dhabi. 140 tons of compressors go from South Korea to France. It's like the only thing that can carry these things. It's an amazing aircraft.
So, and presumably as a result, of course, the people who were using said aircraft to do those exact tasks must be really, must be a real logistical challenge to overcome it.
I'd imagine it's been. I expect they're probably using ships now, Matt.
Yeah.
Shipping to do it, yeah, which is obviously a lot slower. Yeah.
No, it had a capacity of 253,000 tons. I think is what it's saying.
Me.
Yeah, I'm sorry, 559,580 pounds is what I've got here. It's just unbelievable.
Yeah, big number. Impressive. Okay, we'll take.
Yeah, Dirk Guest makes a good point actually in the chat room. There is that was featured quite in the news quite a bit when that all happened. That there is an unfinished airframe in a hangar in the Ukraine. Yeah, it is. I think it was the main bulk of the fuselage is all there. I think it's missing engines and obviously components and bits, but there is kind of a second one there which I think they may work on. So.
Yeah, indeed. Well, let's hope they do, because as I say,
fingers crossed, because we want to see it back.
Yeah, it's such an iconic aircraft, isn't it? You want to sort of see it back.
So Matt, you've got the next news story, and again, it's good news.
Indeed, it is on the gazettelive.co.uk, and the headline is Plans for £25 million Maintenance Facility and Jet Centre at Teesside Airport that could create 200 jobs. A new development for aircraft maintenance at Teesside International Airport is set to create hundreds of new jobs. Global aviation giant Willis Lease Finance Corporation, WLFC, and wholly owned subsidiary Willis Aviation Services Limited, WASL, have now lodged planning documents for a maintenance facility and a state-of-the-art jet centre at the airport's aviation village. The investment, worth £25 million to the UK, is set to bring a significant number of jobs to Teesside, according to the Tees Valley Combined Authority, the TVCA. Part of the 49-acre stretch of the main terminal building was originally earmarked for housing. It was bought for £5 million as part of the deal to bring the airport back into public ownership in 2019. The aviation village on the stretch is set to include 5 hangars for aircraft maintenance, repair and overhaul MRO, and painting operations, as well as a fixed-based operation building for business aviation. The Jet Centre. Access to the complex would be from St George's Way, and the project is expected to create as many as 200 jobs. I mean, that's got to be good news, isn't it?
Good news, yeah. This is good news, especially that neck of the woods as well, and at Teesside Airport.
Well, just lost one over sort of Doncaster way, haven't you?
Exactly.
Was it Doncaster? Whichever one it was that was shut.
It was Doncaster.
Which was it Leeds and Doncaster, wasn't it, or something? Because it was I don't know. Anyway,
yes, we should know. Really,
we should. Yeah, absolutely. This is where we miss John, isn't it? Who will have told us.
200 jobs though is really good. That's what we like to see, more jobs being, especially in the current climate with things as they are. Let's just hope they push this through quick.
Yeah.
get, because we know how quickly they can build things in this country. That's one thing we can do. I mean, if you just picture the current state map that's just not more than a quarter of a mile just that way, they built all those houses in about 10 minutes across.
I mean, I have to say, my experience of anything involving building is the exact opposite of that. I have to be seen. Oh, Leeds and Bradford, apparently. Mark has just said on WhatsApp.
Sheffield, Dirk Guess, to put that one up. Dirk Guess is saying Sheffield Donsfield.
Oh, very close. Yeah, that'll do. Yeah, close enough for folk.
Oh, and Andy Wilson is in the chat room. We're going to say hello to Andy this evening. Hello to you, Andy.
Oh, very good.
But anyway, good news. Jobs, as well as to see in the aviation industry. That is the most important thing here.
100%.
Next story. This is we're going to go tech for this one. Matt will love this story.
Oh, here we go.
When I found this, I thought this is definitely a story that Matt will love to comment on. So this is from flightglobal.com, and Lufthansa are launching Airbus virtual reality cockpit training for the Airbus A320. So Lufthansa Group is to serve as the launch customer for a virtual reality procedure trainer for pilots being developed by Airbus. This will be a good one for Andy Wilson, won't it? The Airbus intends the system.
I don't think that's the same.
Is that a different Andy? Is that?
We have two Andys, don't we?
Oh, we have two Andys, don't we? Yeah. Airbus intends a system to allow pilots to undertake procedure training without the use of a flight sim or fixed training equipment. The airframer showed off the development at the European Airline Training Symposium in Berlin this month. Airbus says the system immerses pilots in an authentic virtual cockpit through a visual headset that enables full interaction with the instruments, switches, and levers. The virtual procedure trainer allows pilots to perform repeated drills, building physical muscle memory and sequence knowledge of the Airbus standard operating procedures, or SOPs, as we like to say here. Use of virtual systems will reduce dependence on simulators and the fixed devices, which obviously cost a lot of money as well. And Lufthansa Group Head of Aviation Training Development, Gilad Skrelbov, says the system will be used for A320 pilots across various interactive platforms. The resulting training enhancements will further enable us to use further cases as well as regulatory acceptance. Airbus Vice President of Flight Operations and Training, Fabrice Hamel, said the system has shown pilots have demonstrably learned procedures more effectively and efficiently. This potential enables type ratings courses for cockpit crews to be shortened, and Hamel adds that the tool provides flexibility by enabling pilots to train alone or together online. Now, I will say the picture that comes with this story is slightly interesting, I will say.
I just get very curious about things like this because in some ways I'm wondering if we're going to a point or coming to a point where we're no longer really training pilots, we're training aircraft operators. And how much experience do these people really get? It's not that it may not be safe, and the pilots and the aircraft operators may not be able to fly the aircraft safely. I'm not saying that, but I'd really like to have a pilot on deck that's really trained as a pilot and understands what flying is all about in case of an emergency, because those do come up on occasion.
Yeah, Dirk S. is saying in the chat room, how do they push buttons then? No haptic feedback.
True.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah, very true.
I mean, what's worrying me, really, is the fact that the pilots on this picture that Matt's got up on the screen have no legs, arms. I mean, that's trouble.
Yeah. Indeed.
Well, Andy just put up something in the chat room. Maybe you can put that up on the screen, and that's a really good good thought. He says that in his opinion, he likes it. He says it expands opportunities to learn procedures alone at home. And when he did his type rating many years ago, he had to do it in a cardboard bomber, just touching bits of paper. So that does make sense.
It does make sense, absolutely. While we are speaking, it is Andy. Yeah, absolutely. And he just sort of said, the message said, enjoying a beer in my pub watching you reprobates. There you go. Oh, hello. I beg your pardon, Dirk. Oh my.
Honestly, how many pilots do you know that have an actual pub in their home? It's a proper pub, Mike.
It is, yeah.
Not a fake one.
No. Only the cool pilots have that in their home. I think that's the way to. That's the best way to do it.
I'm still waiting patiently for Andy to get a piece of one of his airline's aircraft to hang above the bar. Right.
Okay. Right.
Yes.
Yeah, I think you'll be waiting a very, very long time for that.
I know. I keep pestering.
I was going to say you're the only one that's like, I think if you're working with them day in day out, I don't know if I would be wanting to be sticking stuff up all on my wall as a result. To be fair, but there we go.
Now, Micah, you've got the next story from thepointsguy.com, and we're over your neck of the woods for this one.
Yes, you are, as United trolls Southwest boarding process in an unusual ad campaign. United Airlines wants to help you avoid Southwest Airlines' dreaded C boarding group. Yes, you read that correctly. The Chicago-based carrier is launching an unusual ad campaign on Thursday, offering up courtesy reminders to Southwest passengers to remember to check in 24 hours before their flights in order to snatch a more desirable boarding group. Travelers can go to notgroupc.com and get a call from United in time for the check-in window. Hello, United. Hello, United here, reminding you to check in for your Southwest flight so you don't end up boarding in Group C, the call says. A recording of which was provided to the Points Guy ahead of the campaign launch. For your next flight, think about giving United a fly. We let you choose your seat in advance. Southwest is unique among most U.S. carriers in that it does not assign seats. Instead, it assigns boarding numbers in 3 groups, A, B, and C, based on the order which passengers check in. Travelers then line up in the gate area according to their boarding group. There are some ways to avoid the dreaded C group, such as having Southwest status or purchasing business select fares or early bird check-in. However, United would like to add in its new tongue-in-cheek reminder service what it calls courtesy call to that toolbox. We're sounding a light-hearted alarm to remind travelers who may not choose United that there's an easier way to travel, Maggie Schmieren, United's managing director of advertising and social media, said in a statement. Ideally, next time these travelers are flying, they don't need a 24-hour notice to check in because they've chosen to fly with United, where customers can select their seat in advance and therefore avoid the consequences of ending up in the competition's boarding group C. The new digital campaign is going live in 3 markets where United competes aggressively against Southwest. Travelers based in Houston, Denver, and Chicago will see the ads on their computer screens and smartphones. But what United doesn't say is that if you do fly United, then you have to pay to check your bag, where Southwest gives you 2 for free. What United doesn't say is that, in Group C, or rather what they call good seats, which is basic economy, it's standard legroom way in the back of the plane, where Group C is going to be anyway. You don't get preferred seating necessarily. You're going to end up in the middle anyway because those are the cheapest seats around. And plus, you're going to be paying more for it. So this is kind of a crazy campaign from my perspective. Not that I'm a big fan of, Southwest is very equitable. Everybody's treated the same way. And if you check in or you pay for it, you can get the early boarding. But you're not going to have to pay for carry-ons, and you're not going to have to pay for a checked bag. And, anyway, I won't go into it any further. It's really a dastardly advertising campaign.
Who's your personal favourite then, Micah, dare I ask?
Oh, I always fly Acme.
Oh, okay. All right, fair enough. There we go. Captain Jeff has just transferred £10 million into your...
Right, oh, very good. Excellent.
You're
very
good.
good, yeah.
No, I must say that I hate most all U.S. airlines about equally.
That's a balanced opinion. That's what I like about that. Yeah.
Yeah, they're mostly all crap, and there's either the cream of the crap or the crap of the crap.
Indeed.
Captain Jeff is very happy with your
He's
answer.
very pleased. Yes, absolutely. Yay, Micah, he's saying. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
No, back in the day, Matt, do you remember when you used to have your first car and you'd put alloys on or spoilers on the boot or wheel trims or put go faster stripes along the side to make it go no faster?
Yeah.
And stuff. So this next story, Ryanair have cottoned on to our idea, I think.
Have they? Right. What by putting 6x9s in the parcel shelf and that sort of thing? Yeah, absolutely. Car stereos that were worth more than the car, that sort of thing. Yeah. Okay. Very good. The website is flightglobal.com, and the headline is Ryanair to retrofit. I want to say Scimitar winglets onto the 737-800 fleet to cut fuel burn. Budget carrier Ryanair is to retrofit Scimitar winglets across more than 400 Boeing 737-800s in its fleet in order to trim fuel consumption. The retrofit program will commence during the winter season. The airline states and represent an investment of more than $200 million. Scimitar winglets are an evolution of the blended winglet of the 737 and incorporate curved aerodynamic tips and ventral strake. Whatever that means, I really don't understand what that is. Ryanair said that the agreement covers 409 aircraft and will cut fuel burn by 1.5%. Is it though? I mean, I don't know if this is where we sort of wish we had sort of Armando here, but I mean, realistically, how much of a saving do these? I mean, they're claiming 1.5%.
Oh no, that's about right. What the wingtips do is they prevent wingtip vortices, and what the wingtip vortices is at the end of the wings, there air circles around and it ends up pushing down from on top, and you end up getting less lift, and this actually increases the efficiency of the wing. It's almost like extending the wing without necessarily extending it, and it definitely saves on fuel burn. Now I'm sure what they did is they calculated the cost of these additional wingtips compared to the amount of fuel that they would save, and they can easily calculate that because they have some aircraft that already have them on there and see how much you're burning, and they calculated the difference and they saw that it's going to save them money. Now they also are probably going to advertise this. If I were them, I'd be talking about how they're saving the environment by burning less fuel, but let's face it has nothing to do with saving the environment. It has to do with how much cash they're going to save.
I don't know if you can see this, but
yep.
Whether you can see there, now they are what you class as scimitar winglets. So they're the
I see.
Kind of do the V shape.
Yeah.
V, yeah. So that's on the Max, by the way, that is. So if you look at let's say for instance the 75s, I think Delta Airlines 757s. I think most 757s have them though. They have what you call the sharklets that come up. I mean the original the 737-800s Ryanair have the sharklets, which go off in like a sharklets kind of affair. So that's the difference between the two. The scimitar ones are supposed to be even more, supposed to save even more money, as the story said. So, and they look quite cool as well, to be fair, the scimitar ones.
Yeah, I suppose.
But you cast your mind back to the early 90s. Mid 90s and stuff, most airliners didn't really have. There wasn't sort of such a thing as, winglets. The wings used to just come off at the end and just taper, and that was it.
And now it's sort of very much, sort of standard almost.
Standard thing, yeah. And they're always designing different style of ones. I mean, the A330s have a different style one as well. If you look at the ends, have a different style.
Well, I think it's Boeing that has winglets, and the Airbus has sharklets.
Sharklets, yeah.
Okay, right, yeah.
Yeah. So, Micah, you have got the last story in the commercial news segment this week, and we thought we'd save you the best story to finish off the commercial segment for this week.
I love the story, especially after the story about Beirut, because it shows that America does have that problem. U.S. transport officials have roasted a passenger online after they were caught trying to smuggle a gun onto a plane by hiding it inside a raw chicken. The foul plot was cracked by Transportation Security Administration officers at Florida's Fort Lauderdale Hollywood Airport. The traveler's weapon was spotted before boarding, stuffed inside the bird and wrapped in paper packaging. TSA had to say, there's a personal foul here. The plot chickens as we barrel our way closer to Thanksgiving. For us, it's time to be thankful that our officers are always on working around the clock to keep you safe. Take this for instance. Can you believe it? Can you believe it? Find at Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport. We hate to beak it to you here, but stuffing a firearm in your holiday bird for travel is just a waste of time. This idea wasn't even half-baked. It was raw, greasy, and obviously unsupervised. The only roast happening here is poor packing choice. Whether you like it or not, there are rules for traveling with guns and ammunition, so don't wing it. Roast over the proper packaging info through a link in our bio. And all I have to say is this person obviously didn't know anything of that I use, and I find it just as easily stovetop stuffing because when you bake it, it just gets too crunchy.
Oh no, I like it crunchy. I don't like it to be too. But I mean, I don't think I've ever come across a story that crams so many puns into. Honestly,
I mean, what were they thinking? I mean, just to bring a raw blooming chicken on there.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, unrefrigerated, it's going to ming.
It's not going to be any good by the time you get there.
No. Yeah, but the raw chicken wasn't the problem. That's legal.
Unless you're going to Australia, in which case they wouldn't let you in the country.
No, that's true. Well, and a lot of borders, don't they? They have very strict rules about what can come into and go out of the country.
But I must say it is actually very easy if you are licensed to transport a handgun or a long gun on an aircraft. I have done that, and it's not really a problem. So I don't understand why it was trying to be smuggled.
True. Throw it overboard like the turkeys is Richard Adams' answer to that.
As God is my witness, I swear I thought turkeys could fly.
Yes. I mean, I think anybody can fly from that height for a little
while. Did you have that show, WKRP in Cincinnati?
No.
Oh, okay. If for those from the USA who've seen the show, they'll get the reference.
Okay. No, we have Park Radio, Micah.
Okay.
There was an episode where they were distributing for Thanksgiving. They were going to distribute live turkeys from a helicopter, and they threw them out of the helicopter. And apparently, turkeys didn't fly.
Right, surprise. Yes, fair point.
Well, just to cap this story off, I mean, we're going to have quite a poor Christmas in regards to turkeys and stuff this year, aren't we, Matt? Here in our part of the UK,
are we?
Bird flu.
Oh, yeah.
Candy shortage of turkeys.
Right. Okay. Well, we're having steak. We don't.
I mean, we're going to have to find somewhere else to stuff our guns in when we go to the airport, Matt.
Right.
Well, why don't you just come here? I'll cook a turkey for you guys.
What, with a gun inside?
Oh dear.
No, I'll keep the guns are upstairs.
Oh, lovely. Right. Okay. Well, that's cheery. Wow. Okay. Yes, there we go. Can we move on for this story, please? It's driving me nuts.
Right, let's move on then. Well, great stories this week, guys and girls. Well done. This next part of the show we're going to move on to then is following on from last week's segment we played out on the show, where Armando got the chance to talk to Stuart Airey. Now, Stuart Airey used to fly for the Royal Flying Doctors Service over in Australia. And we saw the first part last week, which was very interesting indeed. And we've got for you now part 2 of the interview. So roll VT.
The Flying Doctor Service nowadays enjoys a lot less privation than the Flying Doctor Service when I was there. We were a hand-to-mouth organisation. And the reason why is that you know, when you're a predominant provider of aeromedical services to a predominantly one customer, which is the government, you know, you're in a situation where, you know, they are the client.
Yeah.
And when governments don't do things right and they're in a deficit situation, you suffer too.
Mm-hmm.
And that was pretty much, I'd have to say, it's nearly 17 years I worked there. I'd have to say that was, you know, a lot of the problems that we had. I'm glad to see that's not the problems that they had nowadays in the Australian government. You know, both federally and in terms of state, understand the importance of that organisation, and so they damn well should. Okay?
I was always surprised. You know, I lived over in the UK for 6 years, and I was always surprised how the air ambulance services are privately funded or funded by donation, not funded by the government.
Well,
like in their case.
well, in actual fact, the flying doctor service does get donation. That does take donations. It's a charitable organisation.
Yeah.
But I agree. You know, it is surprising, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we had a run in around about 2004, 2005, where the airline system was sucking up all of the people that they could, and of course, small operators, you know, or GA or aeromedical operators all suffer. And I have to tell you that those pilots that were there in that period of time, they were just fantastic.
Yeah.
You know, to a person. They'd work there, they'd work extra, they'd jump in and do stuff. It was very restrictive. We couldn't do too much. Okay, we couldn't vary too much. But I have the...
But your day-to-day operations are so dynamic enough that you're...
Yeah, but I have the most regard for those guys. They are the best bunch of pilots ever.
Yeah.
They're committed. They'll do what they can, you know, and you know, they'll have a grumble. You know, that's kind of normal. You know, that's allowed.
That's everybody.
But overall, came back to funding.
Yeah.
Okay. I did a study in 2003 on replacing the King Airs with CJ3s. The reason why is that we found that the Cessna Conquest 2, the 441, was able to we could knock 1,800 hours a year into that airframe. Okay, they were just bulletproof. Okay, we didn't have any electrical problems. You know, the Dash 8 engines that we had weren't particularly great, and occasionally they didn't work real well. But overall, they were pretty tough. But they weren't made and weren't supported. So there had to be a decision made on what to replace them with. So the decision was made to go to the King Air, which was great. We got new build straight out of Wichita, fantastic. You know, had EFIS 84 and, you know, and all the stuff in it. Felt like you were driving a big aeroplane instead of a Maserati, which the 441 was. And we couldn't get the durability out. We don't only go to 1,300 hours, which was just, we couldn't exist on that as an organisation because of the tightness of our budget. We were forced to minimise our expansion on the aeroplanes. So what I did was I did a bit of a study, and this is why they now have PC-24s. I think they got them in 2018 or something like that. It was about 15 years late, but better late than never, I suppose. Well, the deal was that the study was very comprehensive, and it looked at all things like duty and flight time limitations, maintenance costs, the whole lot. Okay. CJ3 came out the winner. Okay, at that time, that was what was available. It was new build. It was supported well by Cessna. We knew that Cessna were great. Cessna were great with product support. Fantastic. Go buy yourself a Cessna if you want a machine that's simple to fly and easily maintainable at a reasonable price. Get one. That's my advocacy. But basically, we worked out that the differential between the Beech 200, which we were operating, on maintenance, and the differential in the cost of purchase of the Beech 200 and the cost of purchase of the CJ3 was amortised in 3 years. And that included the maintenance on the CJ3. And I thought, this is a no-brainer. So put it up to the board, or the aviation manager put it up to the board, and the board looked at it and went, okay, that's pretty good. But there was no money, okay? So eventually they got some money and they went a different route, and they got something that didn't do what our predominant business was. Our business was Western Australia, inter-hospital transfers predominantly, and emergency, about 85-15. And they chose an aeroplane to do some remote island work, and it kind of didn't really work, and that's why they had the PC-24s. Around about that time I thought, well, it's maybe it's time for me to go do something else, when they made that decision. But overall, I would have to say, they are a fantastic organisation.
And I've been wanting to ask you this since we met earlier in the week.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give you two questions.
Yep.
In the RFTS, what was your most rewarding flight, and what was your most harrowing or challenging flight?
Okay. I suppose my most rewarding flight really was I went to pick a lady up who was she worked in the Murchison, which is kind of inland and sort of northeast of Perth in Western Australia. She was a haul pack driver, and basically they weren't using the regular cat type haul packs with the dump trucks, the dump on the back, the whole lot. They were using an articulated haul pack, and she was new on the job, and they just watered down the roads for the dust, and she got herself a bit fast going down a ramp, and then it jackknifed on her, and the whole thing went over two benches. And I don't know if you know what a bench is, but when you have the road, it cuts down and sweeps down into the bottom of the pit where they're digging the gold out in this instance of the. So she went over two benches. This thing bounced and kind of exploded everywhere and threw her out, fortunately, because apparently, I didn't go to the site, but apparently what was left of the truck, the nuts and bolts and, some spare metal sort of sat down there. But unfortunately for her, they had put a reinforcing spike on the first bench, which is where it bounced, and she got thrown out of, because I think she knew it was out of control. Must have been trying to get out. I don't know. I didn't ask her. She was. But apparently she had a collapsed lung and broken pelvis and various broken limbs, etc. We flew 2 airplanes up because there was other people that were, bystanders that were injured as well. But apparently she had a full recovery and went back to work.
Wow.
So that's pretty good. My worst, and I'd have to say I put this down to youth and stupidity, was that I was actually on a day off, and I was in Micah, and the on-duty pilot, because it was a very small base at that time, the on-duty pilot, he was off in the Cessna 441 flying around, and there was a Piper Navajo, which we still had at that time, that was available, and I got a phone call from our ops centre and said, we have a priority one. Would you go and do that? Sure. Just roared out to the airport. Dr. David and and Linda, the flight nurse, I still remember. So but it was a short flight just down from Micah to Mount Magnet, so it's a real short flight. We're talking 35, 40 minutes. Maybe. Can't even recall nowadays. But so we went down there. Ambulance met us at the airport because the town doctor had gone away. That's how small the town is. Like, they're tiny, these towns. He'd gone away for the weekend, wasn't available. And there was a little baby with meningitis. So I don't know if you know much about meningitis. There's a couple of different varieties. Anyway, the bad one, apparently, I'm not much of a medico myself because I'm not a medico, but is meningococcal meningitis. So this baby apparently had been to the local hospital. They'd sort of said, well, you get the flying doctor service. So we went down there, and obviously the parents were there and kind of fairly distraught. And by the time we got there, poor little kitty was probably not too good. And I suppose I made the stupid move because the doctor was a great doctor, Dave. I said, look, don't worry too much. I think it'll be okay. Dave's a pretty good doctor, and they were sort of a bit reassured, but then it didn't work out that way.
Yeah.
And there was a lesson in that for some young idiot, and they just shut your mouth. So we, flew I flew the crew back. We sort of sat down on the edge of a curb, actually, and had a beer. So, happens.
It does.
Yep.
It happens many aspects of aviation, including the military. There's plenty.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, plenty of flights where.
Yeah.
I've said it before. One of the most helpless feelings I've ever had in my life was in the Middle East in combat, or watching a British Puma crash.
Yeah.
And we were doing
it's
Overwatch.
Quite horrifying, isn't it? Yeah.
From a Pilatus, actually, we were doing Overwatch. And as we're watching the team go in, and we watch this, there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah.
It's just the worst feeling in the world.
Yeah, it is.
And then as a team, you're going to end up back together at your base. In our case, it was Balad Air Base, and that's exactly what we did. We met up with the British team that had gone in that night, sort of to kind of debrief the whole night, and we did it over beers, and we did lose a couple people that night, and you cry, you hug each other, these small scenes like
that's the thing, and that's the beauty of flying doctor service work. It's real team stuff.
Yeah.
You build bonds with people, and there's a level of trust. Okay, so if you have the doctor in the back say, "Get us on the ground ASAP," it's real.
Yeah.
Okay, because you work with these people. Okay, you work in that base. You live with these people. Okay, you go to, you make up reasons to have barbecues and bullshit.
Yeah.
That's what you do because you're living in remote small towns. If you don't do it, it's not going to happen. You know what I mean? So
that actually brings up, I think, kind of one probably the last question. We're at it or close to time, but so now you're flying for a mission, for a purpose. There's somebody hurting. How do you, as a pilot, balance the urgency of the mission with risk management, with safety, with those things?
Yeah, that was first and foremost. Okay, so what we used to do was we had a little bit of a top-down system, and that was that we had a role which I think a lot of organisations should have, which is an operational supervisory pilot. And at the time, it was predominantly Michael, the chief pilot, myself as deputy, and Peter Smith, who was one of the senior training and check guy. We would rotate it. Mostly it was Michael and I, and Peter would get involved and Micah went out of the loop. So every week about, we would be available 24/7, okay? And the way that what we did in that 24/7 duty period was predominantly after hours. Mostly during hours, it can be handled by ops because it's daylight. But when the sun goes down, the world changes. And that's when the vampires come out and can bite us. So we had a filtration system on how we would task pilots. So, for instance, if a newbie came in and he was, 3 to 6 months into the job, then we would consider him, as a put a glass ceiling on him. He's not going past a certain category of airstrip. So, a Category 1 airstrip, for instance, would be Dallas Fort Worth. A Category 2 airstrip might be something like
Colorado Springs, like we just did.
Oh, no. That'd be Cat 1 in Australia, Category 1. Well, we had a category system, but a Category 2 might be, decent long runway, but because it's unsealed, it becomes a Category 2. Okay? It may or may not have a Navo. In those days, it was predominantly Navos, although we had GPS, are now, still. A Category 3 is anything that doesn't fit in a criteria which it has a cut-off. So it's all the little bush airstrips, the airstrips that have hills, for instance. So you could have a decent airstrip, it's sealed and everything, and it's got hills in close proximity to the airstrip. So, for instance, a Denmark in Western Australia. Perfectly good airstrip, nothing wrong with it, but it's got some hills that are wrapped around it. So you actually have to have a procedure to go over the top of them. And that's what we had for each of these airstrips, all 750 of them. The procedure you are to adopt to go into the airstrip. So we had a real SOP, and it was the crew's lifeline. And if the crew weren't suitable to go into that place, what we would do is crew substitute. So we had a series of bases. We had the main base in Perth in Western Australia, and in Western Australia all these bases existed. Then we had Kalgoorlie, which is a regional gold mining area, and then we had Micah, which previously was a regional gold mining area, but it's pretty depleted out, but it was about midway. And then we had Port Hedland, which was up in the Pilbara, which is all iron ore mining, and then up in far north, in the cattle country, we had Derby, or the English people would call it Derby. It's not, it's Derby. And so what we would do is we would fly the aeroplane from, say, Derby to a remote desert area with an experienced pilot, okay? The other pilot here would remain on call or tasked to do another job. So that way, what we did was we would kind of grade them on experience in terms of, the experienced guys got the worst jobs and the worst conditions. So we did put a filter on that opposite alert us that we had this Cat 3 strip at night. We've got this guy on call, and then we'd say, well, no, hang on, let's alter the plan, let's do it this way. Or can he be roaded? Can we get them roaded to this place, which is relatively nearby, where they have pilot-activated lighting, they have a metal strip, etc. So there's a lot of risk mitigation and stuff that went on from top, okay? From the pilot's perspective, we equipped them by taking them out every year and doing limited flare path landings. So we're talking 6 flares. We take them out to a remote aerodrome, which was a black hole. You never want to get to do it. So if we were in, say, in my case, I was in Port Hedland, okay, and I'd take a bunch of guys out in an aeroplane, we'd go out to Marble Bar, wait until which is out to the east of Port Hedland, and it's out of town. There's no ambient light, no nothing. We'd wait until the sun went down. We'd lay the flare path out. Once the sun went down, and off we'd go. we'd fill the aeroplane up full of gas and we'd go and burn the gas basically, and get them all cut. So when I was there was 3 other pilots, and then there's 5 pilots in that base now, and that's what they do each year. And the other thing that we used to do was we had a fairly strict training and check regime. Where I work now is pretty relaxed compared to that background. And I suppose, someone told me when I was almost out the door, "You do know that your nickname is the Terminator." Oh, great, thanks. Yeah. Anyway, lovely. But we had 3 checks a year that we did. Okay, so we had the instrument rating, command instrument rating was called in those days back there. So the instrument proficiency check. We had a base check, which was a mini instrument proficiency check, and then we had a route check. So basically, the training check guy sits in the right seat, just observes what's going on, how you're going about the business, what you do, asks questions about systems and this and that and the other. So it was pretty strict.
Similar to what we do in Part 135. There's an instrument check, VFR competency, and then there's a mind check. Can you do the job type thing? And that kind of risk management, as you were kind of mentioning it, I think it's important, now as there's hiring in aviation, there's people getting into aviation jobs, and there's and then there's the corporate, private side of the house. I think it's easy to get rushed. It's easy on the corporate side of the house to have that your primary come to you, or your company, or your CEO if you're flying. I think both of us fly with the CEOs of companies.
Correct.
And they're always trying to rush you, or it's a lot of hurry up and wait. You're waiting for 4 hours, and then they say, "Hey, we're 20 minutes out." And I always think back to, my military background, your RFTS background, where you have that sort of, you can't rush me. Like, don't rush me.
Yeah, I've got to say, I have a view that when you close that door and you turn left and get into the cockpit, it all stops.
Yeah.
Your personal problems. Some are insurmountable to some people, but if you've got minor issues like, the dog needs to be going to the vet, or your wife's and you've had an argument that morning, forget it. It stops. It has to stop, because it's really important to make sure that you look after the people in here. They're your family right now. Okay, whether you like it or not, they are your family. You put them first. Okay, you put yourself first. The safe side of things. You put the safety of the aircraft next, okay, and they will follow.
Yeah,
and that's the way it is. I always had a view that, and Peter Smith and I talked about this often when we were checking pilots and training them and stuff. We weren't happy to put our own families in the back of that person. Exactly. That was it. They were done. Okay, and normally I got to do the hatching and dispatching. So, but at the end of the day, really, that's what it's about. Yeah. And that's why we're tough on ourselves as aviators. You've got a fairly interesting background and lots of experiences, like just out of the box.
Yeah. It's special to be able to project that kind of assertiveness to the client and say to them,
and present it in a way that's
trust me, if I don't want to be in it, you don't want to be in it. You want to get home, I want to get home. We both want to get home in the same.
I think one of the critical key words that I use is, I'm not safe. We all want to be safe. We all want to go home. If I'm not prepared to go there, please, you need to trust my judgment as a professional aviator.
Yeah.
we're not going there.
And
if they insist, then I've never had anyone actually get past that point. If they did insist, I'd say, I'm sorry, I can't help you. I'm going to walk away, and I'll do that right now.
I think it's important for young pilots to get some experience and find that balance, because as you're getting into the industry, especially on the corporate and the private side of the house, I think it's easy to be influenced by your primaries and your clients to make decisions that you wouldn't otherwise.
Well, you don't want them being the decision maker of what happens up the front.
Absolutely,
when you're sitting in the back.
You wouldn't tell them how to run their company, right?
Nope. No, because they're not going to tolerate that.
Yeah.
So, look, that's. I suppose at the moment it's a really, really hugely. There's a huge demand for pilots out there, and it kind of bothers me a little bit that we've got to the point where, there's some. I see, we share a facility where we currently are with an airline, and I kind of look across and go, whoa, look, not knocking them. Everyone starts, and they've obviously got their 1,500 hours and stuff like that. But I don't know. I have my misgivings. There's nothing like a good training and check system to keep people on the straight and narrow. I get a little bit worried when I think about some of the small corporates out there.
And some of these regional airliners.
We're one of them. So I come from that sort of, frame of reference. So I don't say a lot, but when I need to, I kind of say, okay, enough. So,
Well, I'll tell you what, I didn't prep you for this. So we always finish with one question, which is, if money was no object.
No object.
No object whatsoever.
Okay.
And you could fly any airplane in the world, past, present, or future, what airplane would that be?
Well, I actually always thought it would be fantastic to get in a tornado and go 300 to 400 feet above the ground in ground hugging mode and rip along and, at some horrible speed. But that would be great. Yeah,
that would be cool.
I think there's always the speed freak in all of us as pilots. I mean, I worked with a guy by the name of Bob, who was an ex-squadron leader and flew Mirages in the Royal Australian Air Force. And he's a pretty good guy, actually, very, very laid back. Anyway, we were talking about this relativity of speed, and I said to him, blah, 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 something about speed. It's all in proximity to the ground. He said, not quite so. He said, we used to fly from Butterworth in Malaysia to Singapore in the Mirage at Mark 2.1 or whatever it did. And he said at 50,000 feet, Kuala Lumpur was going past pretty fast. So, that would have been a good one.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thanks, Dan.
Thank you.
And thanks for being my sim buddy.
Absolutely. We're going to make it through.
Yeah. I've got your number.
Discover the pioneers of speed and adventure at one of the UK's most iconic museums. Whether it's a tour of the legendary Concorde, a walk around the Brooklands aircraft factory, or maybe a behind-the-scenes look at the McLaren automotive cars, the Brooklands Museum has it all. Based at Weybridge in Surrey, it's the perfect day out for all the family. We can also host your private function or meeting in one of our amazing event suites. With so much to see and do, come and take a look at Great Britain's history of speed and flight. Find out more by going to www.brooklandsmuseum.com or give us a call on 01932 857 381. That's 01932 857 381. Now, I've got to say, I think that's a first that somebody's chosen favourite aircraft was the Tornado.
Yeah, that is.
I feel that's a first. Yeah, that's the first time I've heard that. So that's quite refreshing to hear. And I think he's absolutely on the money there, isn't he? It's that ability, so you're literally licking along at like 400 feet.
God, yeah.
The speed that must be. That must be quite a rush.
Yeah, it's one that I definitely haven't heard before in all the times that we've interviewed people on there. But it's been a great little sort of segment that Armando put together there.
Absolutely.
And I did notice as well that bottle of scotch did decrease in fullness through the whole interview.
Right, yes. I'm sure he'd deny that if you challenged him directly on it, obviously. Indeed.
Well, it is hard to talk aviation without a little, lubrication, I suppose.
Yeah, Mark's saying he worked on he worked on a Tornado, a really good aircraft, apparently. Well, there you go. There we go, Mark on WhatsApp. Right, okay. We need to do some military.
Yes, we do. It's time for the military news, and this week it's brought to us by Armando. So, Matt, roll the VT.
What's up, Buggies? 13550, Angel 16, heading 340. Okay, 108 Buggies.
Hey guys, this first military story is from the airforcetimes.com. Just this week, so nobody was hurt when a military plane crashed on Monday in Mississippi, south of an Air Force base that conducts quite a bit of flight training. This was a T-38 Talon aircraft, crashed about 1 p.m. on Monday, roughly 20 miles south of Columbus Air Force Base, according to their public affairs office. They told the Associated Press that the plane was based at the Columbus facility, which is in northeast Mississippi, which is exactly where I find myself right now. I'm flying all over Mississippi today. A brief statement from the base said that the T-38 Talon had suffered an in-flight emergency. The pilot, whose name was not released, was taken to a local hospital. According to Colonel Jeremy Bergen, the 14th Flying Training Wing Vice Commander, he said, we continuously train our pilots to react appropriately for all emergency situations as the incident occurred today. We're thankful that the pilot ejected safely. We appreciate the continued support of the Columbus Air Force Base community and our community partners. Obviously, this crash is going to be under investigation now. Columbus Air Force Base, like I said, is home to the 14th Flying Training Wing of the Air Education and Training Command. That's 19th Air Force. This wing, this organization as a whole, has on average 260 flights each day on 3 parallel runways. Now, this is the T-38 is the advanced aircraft that pilots go to, so they start undergraduate pilot training in the T-6 Texan II turboprop, and then depending if they're going to different to fighter aircraft or single-seat aircraft, they'll move on to the T-38. Or if they're moving on to some of the larger reconnaissance or transport aircraft, then they move over to the T-1 Jayhawk, which is pretty much a Beechcraft. But by all accounts, a pretty difficult airplane to fly. Not overly difficult, it is a trainer. But with 260 flights a day, you can imagine that the increased risk of the training environment. So we'll keep an eye out for this and see if the Air Force does something with the fleet, or if it was just a training situation where they need to sort of reevaluate how they're going to do whatever operation this pilot was doing.
I mean, yet another incredible location, let's be honest with you, that he's doing our segments from. Absolutely astounding. I assume that's in the sort of the back of the aircraft this time.
Yeah, I had to Google that, the T-38 Talon, because I thought, I was trying to think what it looked like. But now I actually can see what it looks like. I don't know if I can. It's
an older aircraft. It was produced from 1961 to 1972, and it's a trainer aircraft, and it's so old, in fact, that that's where Captain Jeff trained on and was an instructor on as well. But it is supersonic, and Jeff said in the chat room that base where this took place, that's where he trained and where he was an instructor.
Nice.
So we've got next story from Armando. And Matt, do you want to roll the video?
This next story is an interesting one. Mechanics may have accidentally forced the Air Force to ground more than 100 C-130s. A long-time practice by Air Force mechanics is potentially the likely reason that propeller blades on C-130 Hercules have been cracked, leading to more than 100 aircraft being grounded in late September. Mechanics using electric arc pens to etch numbers into the propeller barrels during inspections have actually caused some of the issues, according to an Air Force spokesperson to military.com. Now, that practice was obviously once discovered, stopped several months ago. An Air Force spokesperson, Major Bo Downey, said that the process used to engrave serial numbers on the propellers caused the cracking that is being found on C-130Hs. That process, as we said, was stopped about 6 months ago and will not be used going forward. So in total, 116 C-130Hs were grounded from September, October at Robins Air Force Base, or after a technician at Robins Air Force Base, that's outside of Atlanta, Georgia, noted that a crack in the propeller barrel assembly during an engine run check. So additional inspections showed that that two other propeller assemblies also had cracks. This led to the service ordering this widespread one-time inspection on some of its older C-130Hs. The process to fix the propellers is complicated and, according to the Air Force, will take some time. This will all be done at the depot at Warner Robins Air Logistics Center. That's where they receive unserviceable propeller blades. They refurbish them and then inspect them, overhaul them, test them, and then ship them back out. Obviously, this is a pretty complex inspection, and these repairs cannot be conducted at the unit level, so at any of the bases has to be done there at Warner Robins. So as of mid-October, the Air Force had returned 2 airplanes to service. It's not yet clear how long it's going to take Air Mobility Command to replace the propeller assemblies on all of these affected C-130Hs. Similar issues have popped up for C-130s in the past. More than 100 of the cargo aircraft were temporarily removed from service after wing cracks were discovered during routine maintenance in August of 2019, and I was actually still in the Air Force for that. Earlier that year, 60 C-130Hs were taken out of service to examine and replace engine propeller blades that inspectors had deemed dangerous because they'd been manufactured before 1971. And this is, we've talked about this with the grounding of the CV-22 Ospreys with the hard clutch engagements, the grounding of the F-35s for ejection seat issues, T-38s, T-6s have all been grounded over the past year, really, because of the quality of these inspections that are happening and the airmen that are out there, discovering these potential failure points. So pretty common issue. Obviously, it affects training and affects operations, but at the end of the day, I'd rather be talking about aircraft being grounded and expensive fixes than talking about airplane crashes. So we'll see how this goes for the C-130 fleet also.
Again, an incredible view. Love this. It's remind me, what is the aircraft that he flies again?
What do you mean, the one that he flew when he was based here?
No, the one that he's flying. The one that he's flying where the videos.
Oh, the PC-12.
Oh, it's the PC-12, is it?
Yeah, the Pilatus.
The Pilato. Is that how you're supposed to say it, or is that just how Carlos?
Pilatus.
Pilato. Right. Okay. Very good. Very good.
So the C-130H initially delivered in 1964, so it's got quite a good heritage. But they brought out an improved C-130H introduced in 1974. But I'll just pop a quick picture up on the screen there, just in case anyone wants to have a look there of the.
Right.
Hopefully that's worked.
No, it hasn't, mate.
No, it hasn't. No, it's not worked.
We can see the chat room. That's nice.
We can see the chat room. It's how handy that it's not worked.
Right.
But yeah, I that's one of my favourites. Actually, talking about the C-130, there was a C-130 came over yesterday whilst I was out cleaning my truck, and it was literally so low I could have wiped the undercarriage with my hands. It was that low. But it made for a good show for me anyway, because I was outside at the time. So, but awesome noise when that came over. And that's one of the good things that we're lucky at where me and Matt live here in the UK. We do have fantastic access to lots of live aircraft flying around. Anyway, Matt, next story from Armando, the third one. Run that BT.
And then this last military story is from space.com. I figure it's Air and Space Force. We're going to be Space Talking UK in a few years anyway, so we might as well start talking about it. This U.S. military's X-37 space plane just went past 900 days in orbit. The X-37B is a robotic space plane, unmanned, just past 900 days in orbit on its latest, not so open and kind of hush-hush mission, according to the program's flight duration record. The current mission is the sixth for the X-37B program and is therefore known as OTV-6, Orbital Test Vehicle. It launched on May 17, 2020 from Cape Canaveral Space Station in Florida, and who knows when it's going to end. OTV-6 is the first of X-37B to use a service module to host experiments. The service module is an attachment. If you think back to the old space shuttle, it's an attachment after the vehicle that allows additional experimental payload capabilities to be carried into orbit. The mission also deployed satellite called Falcon Sat 8, the small satellite developed by the U.S. Air Force Academy and the students and staff there, sponsored by the Air Force Research Lab to conduct several experiments in orbit. In addition, there were 2 NASA experiments on board the spaceplane to study the results of radiation and other space effects on materials and seeds used to grow food. So the technology testing, the U.S. Naval Research Lab also has an experiment on board the spaceplane evaluating some technology to transform solar power into radio frequency microwave energy. That experiment, called the Photovoltaic Radio Frequency Antenna Module, or the PRAM, continues to crank out data, according to an electronics engineer and researcher at the Naval Research Lab. Very technical term, they said, it's just chugging along in space. The longer we're up here, the more we learn, they said. So there you go. If you look at the X-37B, I didn't really know too much about this airplane. I know they are in museums somewhere. You can see them, or you can see mock-ups of them. But most of these airplanes, the first 5, range anywhere from 224 days for the first one, all the way up to 780 days for the 5th one, and then now this 6th one is self-sufficient up to over 900 days, and will eventually make a landing back in probably Vandenberg Air Force Base, California, or maybe Edwards Air Force Base. So there you go. That's maybe the way of the future. So long-term travel into space. If you look at it, it pretty much looks like a mini space shuttle. So we'll see how this goes.
Thanks for that, Armando. As always, I tell you, even when he's not here, he's still good at producing the goods, as we say.
I know, an incredible location again. Yeah, you've had a fly in the Pilatus, haven't you? See, I know. I've not had the privilege yet.
It's amazing, honestly. It is such an amazing experience to be able to sit in the back. It's nice.
Yeah, well, yeah, quite.
I mean, sitting in the front is fantastic, but I mean those seats are very comfortable in the back there.
Indeed.
So the next part of the show, we've got one little snippet left to play out from the Jersey Airshow. It's the last bit of video that me and Nev done from the air show, and it's safe to say that this particular piece of video was taken in the evening before the air show, when we were at the meet and greet, and we had drinks and stuff. And it's safe to say that we'd had a few glasses of wine between ourselves, me and Nev, and all of a sudden Nev disappeared. And Matt, this is where he went.
Well, here we are. It's the night before the Jersey Airshow, and I'm with Sarah and Mandy. Ladies, what are you doing here?
We are doing the marshalling this year, but we normally come as medics. We've got a team of 16 of us I think we're all here for about a week, and obviously we come every year. I think most of us have been here 20 years on the run now.
Really?
So yeah, I think we got grandfather's rights now.
And what started all this off?
Di Davis actually started it off. She was coming to start with the TAs, and because they did such a good job, then they said, can you put a team together? So Di Davis put a team together, Diane Davis put a team together, and hence we had a team of doctors, nurses, paramedic, admin, everyone, and hence for 20 years we've all enjoyed coming, and we've all enjoyed the banter with Jersey.
That is amazing. And how many of you take part in this now?
At the moment, this year, I think we're 16 or 18 of us this year, but we normally have a team of 22. But we're a bit lower this year because hence they just wanted us to do the
volunteering and
they just wanted to do some marshal this year.
Yeah,
Marshal. That's it. So, but same job. We sit here for the same reason. We love it. We've got a lovely team. Obviously, we all enjoy. We like part of the family. Mr. Higgins will tell you that.
Yeah.
But we are the Welsh medics.
And we're obviously Welsh.
Yeah.
Come from Wales to do it.
Absolutely, yeah. Oh, what a great story. And you do this every year. You've done it every year now.
Yes.
Yeah.
We missed 1 year with the COVID.
Yeah.
But it seems like everything's back as it was before.
Yeah.
But,
now, does anyone question what's the weather going to do tomorrow?
Well, we've looked at the forecast and it looks really nasty for tomorrow.
It's a bit variable, isn't it?
Yeah. I would say tomorrow it's hit and miss. Get the wellies out and get the wet max on.
Wet max on, umbrellas.
Yeah, definitely.
If no winds.
Well, these events can't happen without people like you. So I'm sure that everybody would say how grateful they are for all the effort that you put into it. It's absolutely fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We enjoy it. It's our pleasure.
It's great to meet you as well.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
An incredible.
How did you manage to get Nev's face the same color as that woman's shirt?
Lots of planning.
Lots of wine. Anyway, lots of Pinot.
Oh, really? Oh, not Merlot on that occasion. No.
There was. We had a good offering of wines.
Very good. Okay,
it's very good. Right, so it's competition time then. So last week, Nev set the question for you to answer on the show to win the chance or get the chance of winning that book signed. Hold on, I've just Chris Burwell's book. There we go. I've just lost my show notes. Went all round sky high.
Oh, did they? Oh, dear.
The book from Chris Burwell, a signed book.
Yeah. And
Nev set the question to answer. So I've got the answers here written on pieces of paper. So I'm going to pop those in.
He's taking his hat off, everyone. This is
I know.
A bit scary.
I need a hair. I'm getting a haircut Sunday.
All right.
So I'll put the numbers. I'll put the in this hat here. So I'm going to shake it around like this is just as good as what Matt does on air. On
Shake it up.
So right, I'll pick out a name from here, and the winner of. Well, here we go. Let me just put this down. The winner of the signed book. There we go. I'll hold it up if you can see it on the camera. There we go.
Scott Nickel.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, Scott Nickel. So, Scott Nickel, if you are listening, as you probably are of the show as an audio podcast, I think, send us an email, or I'll probably ping you an email as well this week, just to let you know. Send us your address, and Nev will post that book out to you straight away. So well done to you, Roger. Scott Nichols. Sorry, well done.
You were going to say
Scott.
Roger that, weren't you? That's what you were going to say.
Yeah, Roger that. So well done, Scott. The book is yours. We're going to run another competition next week for another book as well. Yeah. So make sure you stay tuned to find out more details on that as well.
There's some fabulous books in the Grub Street collection that we've been sent, haven't we? Yeah.
Yeah, we've got some really, really good quality books, all aviation themed, obviously, for the chance to win. So next week, we'll set another question for another book for your chance to win. So make sure you tune in next Friday to the show.
Indeed.
So social media links then, where can you find us on the interweb? So you can find us on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. Just search for Plain Talking UK. That WhatsApp number, if you want to send us an audio message or a video message, or just text us a message, feedback to the show, it's +44 757 2249 166. If you want to email the show, send your feedback in, you can email us podcast@plaintalkinguk.com. And don't forget to check out our website, allthews.plaintalkinguk.com, where you can find the links on there to PayPal if you want to become a PayPal donator, or become a donator for our Patreon. There's also the shop on there as well, where you can find links to purchase yourself a PTUK mug, and we've also got some t-shirts as well. If you want to grab yourself a PTUK t-shirt, you can do via the links on the website, and all the other info is on there as well. You can find out more about us and all the team here at PTUK. Don't forget to subscribe to us as well on YouTube, and also that Amazon link on there if you do your shopping on Amazon.
And while you were talking about feedback there, actually, we've got a great piece that we're looking forward to sharing with you next week, which is called Sylvia in the MiG-15. So we'll be sharing that with you on next week's programme. Very much looking forward to that. It's a bit of
Matt,
feedback.
I'm going to have to pop this up, Matt.
Oh, are you? Oh, dear. Grey? What does that mean?
Mugs.
Oh, I see. Right. Yeah. They're there. Yeah.
Oh, the grey mugs are ready.
Yeah. I haven't put the link on the. There's a reason why I haven't put the link on the website yet. Which I won't bore you with on air. We'll discuss that later. But
okay,
yeah, indeed.
I have a feeling, Matt, that when you do get this link on the website for the grey mugs, I have a feeling that there'll be a lot of grey mugs purchased.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, we just need to work out how. We just need to sort of work out the pricing and stuff like that, basically. So.
Right, so that is where we are going to bring episode 433 to a close. I'm going to say a big thank you to Micah, our main man, Micah, for joining us this evening.
Well, thank you so much for having me on. It's my pleasure. It's always great to visit with you guys and all your listeners.
Brilliant, Micah. So for the benefit of anyone, I mean, if they don't know, then I'm highly disappointed. But if anyone wants to find out where they can find you online, where can they find our main man, Micah?
Well, on occasion, I join up with the Airplane Geeks and will be part of a show with them. Of course, Pasadena Brian and I have put together a show about his journey to get lifetime 1K status on United, and that's called The Journey is the Reward, and you can always find that podcast by looking that up on your favorite podcast catcher. And then you can find me directly, at least currently, on Twitter. I don't have a white check mark, but I'm still there, and I'm at Maine Fly. That's Maine like the state of Maine, Maine, Fly, like let's go fly, at Maine Fly.
Oh, thank you, Micah. Well, it's lovely to have you on board, as always, on the show. Don't forget to tune in next Friday, where I'll be in the PTUK Master Suite studio, probably late starting with credits not working, etc. Nev will be with me, hopefully. Armando, I don't know Armando's going to be with us next week, but we'll have a guest lined up next week, so don't panic. We'll be back next Friday. So I think, I'll tell you what, just for a change, we'll leave the end of the show sign off to Micah this week. So, Micah, over to you to finish tonight's show.
Well, it is a holiday here and over there. It's a shared holiday. We call it Veterans Day. You guys call it Armistice Day, and in other places in the world, it's Remembrance Day. So let's remember that what happened when we finally signed the peace accord on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. Have a good week, everyone.